Hey, it's Mo. I am so glad you're here today. I'm always glad, but I'm kind of excited about this little palette, and I haven't heard anything about it yet. So anyway, I want to tell you about it. I have natural light, which is nothing short of kind of miraculous. We had clouds all last week. We have thunderstorms on the way for like the next, I don't know, 5 days. It's been really kind of bleak around here. But today I've got at least some overcast light and I'm going with it. And this is from Tarte. This is what I'm talking about. It's the Confessions of a Maneater Eye and Cheek palette. This is the outer packaging, cardboard box, as you would expect, just a carton. And then on the back, it says, I think it's get a sultry stare. And it's got kind of this, I don't know, my big cats. Is this a cheetah? Is this a leopard print? I don't really know. But what was interesting to me about this is that I watch a lot of YouTube makeup videos because I love that stuff. And I watched a few like anti-hauls and, will I buy it kind of things. And the ones that I saw, people were not interested in this. And it struck me exactly the opposite way. I was very interested in this. These are very much my comfort zone kind of go-to colors. And I thought, hey, if I can get it all in one little palette, and if it can be the formula that I expect from Tarte, I think for me, this would be a well-used palette. So I thought I would give it a try, and I thought you might like to see a review. I don't do first impressions, so I've been using this for, I don't know, most of the week. And I have my thoughts and that kind of thing, but I want to show it to you. So this is Tarte Double Duty Beauty. That's like a subline of theirs. I've never really been exactly sure what that is. I think it's supposed to be like, easier. Like, for example, this has several things in one palette to make it easier. I don't know. Confessions of a Maneater. Again, that same print. And then inside, got quite a lovely mirror. This is cardboard packaging, by the way, but really a decent mirror. And here are the colors. So this is highlight and blush. This is what they're saying. And then 6 eyeshadows. So the highlight and the blush are each 5 grams. The eyeshadow pans are each 1 gram. I consider that pretty good. 1 gram is standard. I consider that standard in most eyeshadow palettes. But 5 grams of each of these to me seemed pretty good. This was $30 US, and I did order it from Ulta. So I want to swatch these, and I want to, maybe more importantly, try these on, because recently I did a review of a Tarte Sugar Rush product, and I just was not impressed with that formula at all. And I wanted to see, one of the reasons I got this is because I wanted to see, does this live up to what is typically considered the Tarte formula, especially like that Amazonian clay blush that, people really think is a good formula and that kind of stuff. So let's swatch, and then I'm going to apply this stuff so you can see how does this palette live up at least to what I expect from Tarte. So the highlighter, Catitude, and then the blush is Smitten Kitten. One of the things I noticed when I got this was that it looked more neutral in person than it did on the website, to me anyway. To me, it looked more pink leaning, and in real life, I find it more neutral, which I thought was interesting. So here's the highlights. In the pan, you notice it looks pink. It's got just maybe just a bit of pink in there, but it's mostly kind of a gold shimmery highlight. And then the blush is a fairly, I'm going to call it a neutral pink. And I'm going to do some comparisons coming up too, to a couple of other Tarte blushes. You can see, like, is this identical to other ones or what? And then the eye colors, by the way, these are all cat puns, so know that going in. We've got Purty and Meowment and Positive and Kitten Me. Must have worked really hard on those names. So there's what those look like. Here are the swatches of those shades. Oops, got that a little close together, but you can see. So there's those again, and I don't disagree with the people who were saying like, these colors have been done before. I don't disagree with that, but I love these colors. And then Ferocious and Wild. So, and I should have mentioned, there are 3 mattes and there are 3 shimmers in the palette, which you're going to see in the swatches, obviously. So there are the swatches of that palette. Again, the highlighter, a little trickier to see. Highlight, blush, and then the 6 eyeshadows. I think they'll swatch really nicely, which truthfully I would expect from Tarte. Very much my colors. Love purples, loves mauves, love pinks, and that Ferocious, this one I think is a really nice touch, and that it's a shimmer. I think that really adds something to the palette. I wanted to start with the blush because when I did the Tarte Sugar Rush, one of my particular disappointments was the blush. So let's just go in here and see, and I'm just going to use the mirror in the palette. So I just dipped in a little bit, and look at that. We actually have pigments. So nothing, and just one quick dip in the pan. So as I said, I've been using this for a week, so I already know that I'm very pleased with the pigments. Certainly in the blush, because that's what I mean, to me, that's one of Tarte's big things, is their, like, how well they do blush. I am saying they're living up to it. And it is more neutral than I anticipated. As I said, even in the pan, I think this looks slightly more pink than it does on my cheeks. There's a little more, just a little more warmth to it. And generally speaking, I like to lean more like a cool pink, but I have to say, I kind of like this color. So there is the blush. I didn't do anything particularly special with that. I just put it on as I normally would. And then I have been actually, I'm just going to use my same brush for highlight, which I typically don't do, but I don't have a highlight brush right here. Poor planning. So this is Catitude. This is the highlight. I'm not a huge highlighter person. I said that before. But I do like some once in a while. I tend to concentrate mine kind of right on the apples of my cheeks. And I have a very small face, so I don't have a lot of room for highlight. Like if I get up in here, it's practically under my eye. So I kind of keep it to that area. Now I can see it. I don't know how it's translating. And then something I did yesterday, actually, I was like, you know, I often put shimmer shadows on my eye with my finger. Why don't I do that with my highlight? Particularly since I have such a small area to highlight. So I did that yesterday, and I rather liked the effect. It was pretty. It is not a see from space kind of highlight, but it is subtle and it is pretty, and it does mesh nicely with the blush. So I think you're getting the best kind of idea of the subtlety and that kind of thing. That's kind of the general idea, but in person, I just really, really love that look. Very pretty, very subtle. And again, for me, this is a very go-to kind of color story that I would just pick up and be like, I don't know what to do today. This will do the face and I'll be good. So thumbs up on the blush and the highlighter. And then we get into the eye colors. So what I like about this palette is that, I think I kind of mentioned this, but I like that they gave us some depth. So there's this interesting purpley, I mean, it's really more of a pink leaning purple, I would say, this Ferocious color, but it's an interesting choice because if you take these out, you've got a really pale palette. And I'm going to compare those to something too coming up in a little bit, but adding these in to me really gives you more versatility. Like you could just do this all over the lid, you're good. You could do a very pale, you could even use those 3 up top and just do a very pale eye, but you add this kind of deep brown and that gives you a lot of options. You can line with it, you can use it certainly in the outer corner to really add depth. I've done all these things already because, as I said, I've had this for several days, but at the moment I just want to show you kind of the performance, which is generally what I'm doing. I'm generally not doing looks because mainly I review things. What I'm trying to do is show you how does this stuff work. And I particularly like to do things that are generally available online that you can't see in person. And right now, of course, that's more things than it used to be. So I'm gonna go into Kitten Me, which is really, for me, the lightest shade in the whole palette, but makes a decent transition shade, depending on your skin tone. It's pretty pale. You can see that. And it's between kind of a beige and a pink almost, but it's not too pink. Again, I really expected this palette to be more pink leaning than it is. It is more neutral than I thought. And I think I would have been happy with pinker, but I think a lot of people, like makeup tends to go pink on a lot of people and they don't prefer that. So maybe this is actually better for a broader range of people because it's not just completely like every shade is pink leaning, etc. And me, this stuff's quite neutral. So there's kind of the transition shade, if you want to call it that. I'm using it as that. So that's Kitten Me. I always use my Wayne Goss brushes, by the way, when I'm doing these. So I'm keeping it consistent between makeup reviews. So it's not like I'm using different brushes or whatever. And then I'm gonna go into the Positive shade and just show you that. I'm gonna use the same brush and do kind of the same thing. Go maybe a bit more into the crease here. So this warms things up a little and deepens it up a little. This is really easy stuff I'm doing here, pretty basic, but really a simple, I'd say a go-to look that I would do. And I'm also gonna take that, that same Positive shade just onto the lid here, about the outer half, just so you can kind of see. But these really go on nicely and they really blend nicely. I mean, this is a piece of cake. And not to keep harping on the Sugar Rush palette, but apparently I am, that thing just took forever to blend, to get any color payoff, anything. And I think truthfully, that palette kind of soured me on Tarte. And so that was the only hesitation I had in ordering this, was like, if I have to work that hard with this palette, I'm not buying it. But this one is more Tarte. I prefer Tarte to Sugar Rush. And I want to go into that deep brown. I just think it really makes a difference. It really takes this kind of pale neutral palette to a place where I can amp it up a little, if I so choose. And if I don't want to, I don't have to. But it's all in one palette, which I do think is nice. And I did this, a similar look to this the other day, and I really, really enjoyed it. I looked good on my Zoom call that day. Earth-shattering? No. Good formula? Yes. I will say though, this shade of the 6 for me is the most difficult to blend. Now that's relative because none of these are difficult to blend, but if I had to pick one that's a little more difficult to blend, maybe a touch drier, it would be this one, but it's still, that's on a relative scale, so it's really pretty good. And I appreciate it. This is just a bare brush, by the way. You know, in any of these points, I could stop. You could do a single wash of color. You could do a couple colors. This is really for you that I'm showing you these other colors. I'm going to go into Meowment. And I'm just going to pop that on the lid. Very easily. I always use my finger for shimmers. Oh, and I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention at the beginning, the only thing I had on was foundation. I didn't put bronzer on, I didn't put anything on. I didn't want to impact the colors in any way, or the, you know, kind of what you were seeing. I try to keep it as authentic to real life as I can. So I've got that Meowment on there, pretty little shimmer, just pretty basic. Now I do really like, I said, I really like this Ferocious color, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of that on the, oh, we'll say the outer third here. I just like that punch of color. I think that was a cool, interesting choice. You can see that. I just really like this. I really like the look. I really like this formula. And then I'm going to throw some of that Purdy, that, you know, what you consider a very light highlight shade, just right, pop that right in the middle. I'm going to put this Positive, so that's kind of that, I don't know, to me it's like a malt shade. I'm going to put that under here. There's the idea. I'm not putting on mascara or anything. I typically don't do that because I want you to see just the shadow. So yesterday I was playing around with this, and like, I don't know if anybody else nerds out like this, but like on Friday night I was just swatching stuff like for entertainment. I love makeup. And I knew that I wanted to compare the blush to a couple of other neutral Tarte blushes that I have, because I thought that might be useful to you. And then when I was swatching, I was like, wait a minute, those eyeshadows remind me of something. So first we're going to do the blush swatch comparison, and then I'll do the other one. But so I want to swatch Smitten Kitten, which is the blush in the palette, which to me feels very much like the standard Amazonian clay formula. So this is Smitten Kitten right here. And then I'm going to compare it to Exposed from Tarte and that Tarte color that I believe is a Sephora exclusive. I got it a couple years ago as like a birthday gift or something, but they sell it now as a full size. So this is Exposed. A lot of people know Exposed. This is kind of a classic Tarte blush. And so this is Exposed. I'm going to put Exposed over here, comparing it to Smitten Kitten from the palette. So you can see Exposed, which to me has always been a really neutral blush. This has more pink in it. That surprised me. So that's how neutral we're talking here with this Smitten Kitten blush. And then the other one is the Tarte, which again, I think a lot of people have this just because it did come as a perk several years ago. And it's a good neutral color. So Smitten Kitten in the middle. And then here is Tarte, which is even more pink. Oh, I love comparing colors because the eye tricks you, right? So Smitten Kitten here, Exposed here, and this is that Tarte color. Interesting? I thought it was interesting. I thought you might just like to see that color comparison. And I think it's a good way to illustrate just how neutral or almost warm leaning this palette is, more than I expected when I saw it online, and more than I think perhaps other people think. I think they think it might be really pink, but it's actually got a fair bit of warmth to it. And then the other thing I wanted to compare was, I was looking at this and I'm like, those colors look a lot like Pillow Talk. And I am not a fan of Pillow Talk. I know. It's like illegal to say that, but it's true. Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk does not work for me. There's not enough contrast, whatever. So I wanted to compare some shades. And I'm not going to say it's an exact dupe, but there are some striking similarities. So so here's the shades from the Confessions of a Maneater palette. That one doesn't swatch as well. I'm just going to grab a little more on that. And I keep doing it with my little finger. I think that's part of the problem too. So there's those. Okay, I knew my Pillow Talk palette was here. I just couldn't find it anyway. Pillow Talk, Charlotte Tilbury. This is, I guess at this point in time, we'll say this is a classic. People talk about this all the time. I have it. I wanted to love it. I kept trying to love it. I don't love it. Formula's good. The colors just don't have enough depth for me, so sorry about that. So those two in comparison, and the little pink, I think that had more of this matching. So that's more gold. So that's almost between those two. And actually what was interesting, the pop shade, there's not exactly a dupe. So I don't like these pop shades. They're so dry. I know, I'm breaking all kinds of YouTube etiquette by not liking something popular, but I don't care. I gotta be honest. But I thought that was a good comparison actually for the highlighter. So, are they dupes? Are they exact? No. Could you get a really similar look out of this compared to Pillow Talk? I do believe you could. But it's got that dark brown and that other shade to give you more depth. That's all I'm saying, people. So Confessions of a Maneater Palette from Tarte. You've probably determined at this point. I like it. I like it quite a bit, actually. And, you know, for my money, kind of a Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk dupe, too. So bonus. Anyway, I hope that was helpful, because that is always my only purpose here. I hope you are at peace today, and I'll talk to you soon.